Today in the Book Lab, we're going to be taking a look at upgrading the Molten Man. So I'll be the first to admit that the concept for a Molten Man is pretty cool, or not if you know what I mean, but it just looks like a bunch of lava just burst out of the street and is taking everything with it. Stoplights, street signs, pieces of car, most of the road, you name it, it's all gone now. Removing those, especially the little car, did hurt, but I mean it was worth it, because leaving them in place did kind of limit his articulation a bit, and plus, especially those little streams of lava just glooping down, they did hurt his articulation. It was hard to move his arms and legs around effectively with those there. But really, the reason why I wanted to do that was to add in this little feature. So if we lift up the head here and open out the sides, and you do have to make sure your arms are out of the way for that, we have a Molten Man inside. And this Molten Man is actually Ultimate Flamma from the Next Knights line from a few years ago. I just added in some yellow legs from that Spaceman pack from the LEGO Movie 2. And basically, here you go. And what I really love about this is that thematically, the two do match. Here we have water, here we have... And basically, that was really my whole goal for designing the set, to add in this minifigure here. And as you can see, that actually locks in pretty tightly around the minifigure, and when the minifigure's inside, you really can't tell other than this giant gap in the side here, but the flame kind of blends in, and it's really like the mech and the figure are one. And plus, the good news is that while in order to build that, I did have to use parts that weren't included in the set, most of those parts are actually pretty easy to find, and you should be able to build this with not too much trouble if you so desire. Let's address the elephant in the room real quick, because I know I'm probably going to get some comments about this one, and that is, the head here. Basically, I just ended up taking Molten Man's head and turning it upside down, because I don't like the look of the original head. It just, I don't know, it's just like so hideous and so ugly, and that's just not something I'm used to seeing from an actual LEGO set. Like, just the rocks around the edge up here, and the fact that, I don't know, this just, to me, it doesn't look good. It looks terrible. It's like, it's the one bad thing that I just really despised about the original set. But if we turned it upside down, to me, that actually looks like a much better head. I mean, if you can ignore the mouth here, we still have the eyes, and then we have this kind of lower jaw here, created with the rocks around the edge of the head. And I just really love that look. I mean, the eyes, of course, could be improved. He kind of looks surprised here, and not in a good way. And given that he's a mech supposed to be terrifying, and given that he's supposed to be terrifying the city, I guess it's not the most appropriate. And I do have plans for building my own brick-built version of the head. It'll just take me a little time to get that done, because I do have some more projects that I really need to get out. I've been meaning to, but I just haven't had as much time lately. So let's get into the actual build here. As you can see, I added in some more fire pieces. I replaced whatever the chains used to attach here, and I just switched that around real quick. As you can see, I built up this arm a bit using also parts from the set. The bracket I used on the arm actually comes from the piece that was right behind the head. We ended up not needing it with this build, so I just repositioned it here. And as you can see, I kind of modified it to sort of look like the arm on the other side. Didn't do it entirely because there weren't enough pieces, and I really kind of wanted to limit the parts that I was using from another set. So moving down to the legs here, we can see that I also added in a sort of knee joint just by rotating this piece down a bit, and the reason for that was because his legs standing straight just looks hideous. And one other change I made that you should note is that I removed the orange bracket from here and replaced it with two of the 1x1 dark bluish gray brackets, and we'll need those later on for the central build here. So if you want to build this, basically, like I said, I would just look at the part list in the description and go from there, because this figure is not too complex. Basically what I did was I stripped down the entire center part here, and I will do that again so you can see how it's built. I just left this gold piece down here in place. Alright, so if you want to build this, you basically just have to strip it down to its main components on the center here, and that's not too difficult. So for the right hand side, I basically just took this slope, a clip, and then the extra flintlock pistol and put them in. The pistol kind of, I guess, while you could have it as just a weapon stored on the side there, I feel like it kind of looks more like some piping that the fire creature just absorbed. And moving over to the side here, I replaced the car with just a clip and this orange tooth piece, and then I put that other orange tooth piece behind there. They were originally on the underside of the legs, but I moved them just because they wouldn't fit in what with the pieces here. And then I also added in a 1x1 bracket, and that was not found in the set, but it's very important, so you will need one of those. And to make the lower section that Flamma stands on, you are going to need that orange bracket from earlier, this corner plate with some studs, and then this other plate with a stud. And then we are going to plug that into this, orange Nexonite shield in this slope piece, and when you plug it in, you are actually going to put it right here. I know, instinctively you just want to place it so that it locks into place here, but we need it down this far. and then this is what Flam is going to stand on. And there you go. We have to plug it in so that the bracket hits that plate, and then you're all set. To make the side pieces, the one on the left-hand side, our left, is very easy. You're just going to use these clips, and then a corner plate with a regular plate, and then 2 studs. And you're going to put the slope on like this. And now for the other one, that's going to be the same, but different. So you're going to start with that corner plate here. There's also going to be a stud, and then you're going to use 2 orange clips, and then this gold piece. And then we're just going to take this piece and put it on. And it's nothing too difficult. Like I said, it's just a tiny bit different. And then we will put that on here, and close it up, and close the head down. And now for the head, I actually did have to switch that up just a tiny bit here. And so for the head, you can kind of see how to build that. I'm not going to break it down in too much detail. We're taking that original head piece, plugging it into this ball socket piece, and then we're going to take these and put them on. We interrupt this video to bring you some breaking news, and that breaking news is that I actually managed to finish a brick-built version of the Molten Man's head that I am happy with. And that does require a few extra pieces, but I've updated the parts list accordingly, so don't worry, those will all be accounted for, including some of the parts on the back, which I also added in. These all come from the set, and they are nothing too difficult. In fact, before I show the breakdown of the new head, I'll just show what I added in here. We have this ball joint assembly with a tooth piece and a slope piece, and that just helps fill in the gap. Now, as for the head, one of the biggest changes I made was that I removed the gaps here that were in the gaps here between the shoulder armor and the head, and to do that, I actually just had to take the armor pieces from here and just slide them up by 1 stud length. And this done, it removes that nasty gap in between the head and the shoulders. And as for the head, the only drawback that I have with it is that if you lift it up, we can see that Molten Man can no longer fit that magnificent flame piece on his head. I feel like that's a small sacrifice though, since Hydro Man doesn't have any headpiece or anything and he still looks fine. So there is that. And to make this, of course, we did have to adjust the chest armor here. We have that same slope we used earlier, but we had to add in a tooth piece and then this other slope. If this piece is available in orange, I haven't looked yet, it would probably be best to use maybe orange or gold there instead. I really don't know, but I'll update the build if I find out. As for building the head, the easiest way is to start out with the shoulders. And to do that, we are just going to make a minor change, and that is to turn these slope pieces, which were originally facing this way, around backwards. And then from there, we are going to take the shoulder pieces, and I showed you the modification for those a little bit earlier. And instead of the bracket, we're going to use one of these 1x2 orange plates, and we're just going to put that on. And then on the back, we're going to use this assembly, which I showed you a little bit earlier. It's basically some slopes and a tooth piece, and then we're just going to, well, let's turn it around so you can see that. We are just going to take that and fit it around in the back, and that is going to lock onto the slope pieces. And then once that's done, all we need to do is build the head. The head, which it's not super obvious, but it actually takes inspiration from ChubbyBot's Igor build. It was a pretty cool design, and I really liked it, so I kind of appropriated it here and fixed it up, and here we go. So it's going to be a 2x3 plate with a hinge here. And then we are going to add in this assembly, which is some 1x1 brackets, some tooth pieces, and some various slopes. And we're going to plug that in, and then we're going to take these 2 parts and put them on here. And then after that, we have the 2 eyepieces, which are pretty much just a slope and a stud, and we're going to put this like this. And the reason why I have them sloping upwards and outwards is because it kind of looks like angry, vengeful eyebrows. And then for the mouth, we're going to just use 2 curved slopes and one of these bracket plates, and put it on like so. Now the set does have some leftover of these pieces in gray, so if you can't find them in orange, just feel free to stick with gray. It works just as well, the smile just isn't as obvious, and I really wanted to include that maniacal smile. So then all we have to do is plug that in, and we're going to put these armor pieces back in, and there we go, we are all set, and from there we can just put in our Molten Man minifigure, and then just close the build back up around it. And there we go, our Molten Man is done. Anyway, that about wraps up our look at our customized Molten Man, Big Fig, Giant Fig, whatever you want to call him. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe, and do all that other good stuff. And if you want to see more of my content, please feel free to check out the other videos on my channel, or for more of my nonsense, please feel free to check out my social media profile links in the description below. That's about it for today, so I will see you guys